Hey, folks, Coach Patrick here, Endurance Nation, back with another video cast podcast. This week, the topic is speed, and not just any old speed, but fun races for speed. There's a couple of reasons why we choose races for speed and why we want to call them fun versus just straight up races. I'm going to cover all of that in today's episode. The whole point here is to make sure that you are doing the minimum amount of work required to get the maximum results. Inside Endurance Nation, we're all about your training return on investment, making sure that every workout, every session, every block is really contributing to your goals overall, making sure that you're walking the path of consistency to create the opportunity to race at your fitness capacity. Right? The biggest downside that people have on race day at their big key race of the year is that they just don't have the fitness to match their goals. That's a tough place to be. Raise your hand if you've been there. I don't know if you can see me right now. If you're on the podcast, raising my hand. If I had more than just two hands, I'd raise all of them, my many, many hands, because I've made this mistake many times. And I'm sharing it with you because I want you to make sure you avoid the same piece. And the way that we can do that, one of the ways we can build fitness in a fun and effective way across the season is to use shorter distance races as a tool for us to get stronger and faster. I say races for a couple different reasons. First and foremost, because from a race perspective, it's just a one and done. Most of the time, when people think about getting better in terms of speed, they think about a workout or multiple workouts that they would do in a given week. So 2 or 3 in a given week, which is a lot for an endurance athlete. But then beyond that, thinking about week after week, 5 weeks in, I do this, and then 7 weeks in, I do this. And the compounding effect of that stress, that high intensity stress work on your overall progression as an endurance athlete sort of generally pans out as totally achievable early and then declining amounts of achievable until we run into a place where you're no longer seeing the adaptation from the work that you're doing. Worse yet, you're seeing some kind of overtraining or compensatory activity, something where you're feeling the new discomfort, pain, or just additional fatigue that's interrupting the rest of your week. And so, what most people mistakenly do is add a lot of speed, and they don't think it's a lot. They say 2 sessions a week for 7 weeks. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 14 more sessions than you've done before. And that's generally speaking for an endurance athlete who's keeping things going, has a busy life, working, family, etc. You end up being in a place where you cannot handle the training load. We start to see that breakdown in the overall cycle of your training, which is why fun races are great because they're outliers. They're events that you'd sign up for. Hey, in a couple weeks, I'm going to do this race. And that gives you an opportunity to go do something different, get your speed out in a safe and controlled environment, and then get back to your regularly scheduled training. So for example, if you're going to be on a diet and you want to cheat, let's go out and cheat. Let's go to the ice cream store. Let's go to the best ice cream store in the nearest 20 miles to your house. Like find the best one, right? Just a amazing ice cream, great toppings, like crush it, go do it, crush it, but don't have the ice cream in your house. Don't have the sprinkles in your house and the whipped cream and the other things that they put on ice cream these days. Don't do it, because if you have it inside your house, it's going to be harder and you're going to overdo it. If it's outside of your normal environment, then we have permission to do it because it's a one-time type thing, right? Okay, so number one, getting out of your normal comfort zone, doing some fun speed is great, and we do it as a race setup simply because we're not going to overdo it because it's right in front of us, right here, or in our regularly scheduled piece, right? Okay. Number two, another way to think about how we want to manage that speed is really thinking about what the event looks like. So I'm going to break this down into 3 parts for you today. First and foremost is the warm up. So if you haven't been doing a lot of speed work, or if you're at a new venue, you probably had to travel to get there, take the time to do your warm up right. Everyone has a different level of warm up, but in general, the shorter the race, the longer the warm up needs to be. So if I'm running a 5K, which will take me 20 minutes or something like that, my warm up might be 20 minutes, right? Where if I was doing a 3-hour bike ride, I'm not going to warm up with a 3-hour bike ride. And so as a result, make sure that you've got a good warm up protocol in place and you've arrived, registered, checked in, etc., with enough time to be able to get that warm up in, whether it's just a dynamic warm up or stretching or some specific yoga work you go through, or if you are able to get out and do some aerobic work, whatever that may be, make sure you budgeted time for that warm up because you're going to be going fast and you want to make sure that your body is ready to do that type of work, especially because it lays sort of at the far end of your comfort spectrum, right? Okay. Number two, we really want to nail the pacing with this type of stuff. So it's easy to get caught up in the competitive nature, to find people who look like you or sound like you or talk in similar numbers as you and start chasing them and racing them from the outset. That's not what we want to do. Instead, we want to build ourselves up to our target pace and get there and sustain that work. So rather than really accelerating out of the gate and just continually accelerating out, we want to basically go in the first like minute to 2 minutes, say, in a 5K to get up to our goal race speed. And we're going to kind of sit on that. So we're going to race it a lot like an endurance athlete. We want to avoid a lot of those variable pieces like the up and down stochastic volume changes, speed changes that can really be detrimental to your overall total performance, and instead get up to that race pace and see if we can sit on as long as we can. Need a short break, change of position, terrain may allow it for you with like a downhill or turn, or need to slow down for whatever that may be. But either way, we just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to really kind of get in and sustain that work. So we're not going egregiously fast, we're getting right into it and settling down and getting comfortable in that space, right? It's a short race after all. Yeah. The third and final part is to say, what's the reward? And so again, I mentioned ice cream earlier. Clearly, I'm a little hungry, but in general, what's the reward for doing this? Like, have something fun. Like, take the time after your fun race to go, I don't know, have a nice breakfast or go hang out with your friends, or treat yourself in whatever way treating makes sense for you. And just use that time to also capture some of your lessons learned. Would do this differently, would pace that differently, etc. Don't lose the opportunity to learn from training in a different way, in a new environment, perhaps a new time of day, or even a new sport, to capture some of those lessons learned. Smarter athletes are faster athletes, as we say inside Endurance Nation. We want you to do that as well. And getting smarter isn't just about genetics, it's also just practicing being smarter, asking yourself questions, reflecting on it, and capturing those lessons learned. So before I leave you, some people will ask, I know it, what is a fast race for me in my sport? What does that look like? I've already mentioned the 5K, which is great for any running event, or really anyone who can run. It's the easiest and shortest and most common type of event out there, and practically really affordable as well. Right? The next one for cycling would be something like a Zwift race, or an online game race, if you will, like a Peloton bike or whatever you have for a hard quality session. Or perhaps if you are in a local team, doing something like a local crit race safely, but some version of that where you can do some of that high intensity in a short time frame. Something under an hour would be great. On the swimming side, masters events, masters races, or if your team does like an intra-squad meet or competition like that, also great as well. This is meant to be fun and short stuff. So if you're a long distance swimmer, if you swim the mile, for example, or the 5K or whatever it may be, doing 400s would be fast for you, or 200s would be fast for you at the mile distance. You don't have to go out and do 50s. Just long enough that it's work and it's sustainable, but not so short that it's just all out and, just crazy. And we're doing multiple repeats of it. Again, got to be smart here. If you are doing triathlons, then it would be something like a sprint race. Like, find a local sprint race. Since it's short as a sprint race, you could probably also just roll your own, the local swimming hole or YMCA or wherever you may swim. Bike can fit in your car, can run out of your car. Just make sure you pick a place where you're safe, and kind of do that work as well. And in all three disciplines or multiple discipline races, if you're doing a duathlon type setup, is again making sure the warm up is good, making sure everything's safe, the conditions for you to go, because we always want to be safe when we're using speed as a tool, and then accelerate up and then get it that sustained effort, and we're going to hold that effort that we can sustain for the remainder of that leg of the workout. So as long as hold this pace for the rest of the swim, because you can do it, or the rest of the bike, or the rest of the run, and that's a really great way to go. All right. So I hope you find your happy place. If you've got questions about how to find the right race for speed, or where to interject that speed inside your training, hit us up at enduranceNation.us. You can use the chat bot there. Over here on Facebook, facebook.com/enduranceNation. Or if you're on the pod, then go ahead. You'll see some contact information there as well. Or you can join our newsletter and get more information and learning there. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you can find a short, local, fast race for you that will mix up your training and add some spice to your overall progression. Remember, we still want to have fun. And even though our goals are high and our work ethic is solid, and we want to go out there and represent ourselves really well on that specific day in the distant or perhaps not too distant future, it's also important to have fun. Give yourself an opportunity to do it. You'll be happy you did. Thanks, folks. Take care. I'll see you in the next episode.